Angeba Sochola here. In this video, we'll be basically discussing what is known as clean coal technologies. We'll be focusing on a specific technology known as coal gasification. This is basically a process by which you take solid coal and turn it into gas. So basically, how this works is that you take a solid piece of coal and put it into a machine known as a gasifier, right? And then when it's in the gasifier, you subject it to a certain high temperature and pressure, and then you inject a lot of oxygen into that gasifier vessel, right? Now, as that happens, certain bonds break down within the coal and they turn to gas, right? They turn to what is known as low BUT coal gas, right? So now when you have this BUT coal gas, it's filled with impurities, right? Things like sulfur, mercury, and the likes. So once you have this coal gas, you then subject it to a purification process. So it would compose of a number of steps. Firstly, you will need to purify the sulfur that is found within the coal. Secondly, you will need to purify the nitrogen oxides, which are found in the coal. Thirdly, you'll need to purify the mercury, which is found in the coal. Fourthly, you'll need to purify something called tar, right? It's subjected to a detarring process, right? And then you will need to remove dust from that coal gas, right? And then what remains is syngas, right, which is hydrogen and carbon monoxide and methane, right? Now you can take the methane and use it for to generate electricity, right? And then you can take the syngas to produce various chemicals which are used in industry. You can take the syngas and produce things for agriculture. You can produce fertilizers here, and you can produce explosive from just having access to hydrogen and carbon, right? So if you subject the syngas into various temperatures and pressures, you can produce various chemical projects and chemical products. So basically, how you can access this syngas and methane is in two ways. Basically, you can first take the current existing coal fleet, right, and then put it into a gasifier that would actually exist above ground and then produce the various gases and products that you want. The second way of producing this syngas and methane is basically known as underground coal gasification, right? This basically taps into coal seams which were previously considered uneconomic, unminable, or too deep for it to be mined, right? So basically, you drill holes, right? So you basically you don't mine, you drill holes as if you drilling for gas, right? And you drill right into the coal seam. Once you are into the coal seam, then you subject the coal seam under the same conditions as if it's in a gasifier. Firstly, you will need to subject it to a high temperature, right? So you send some fire underground, right? And you, in this case, you would send steam and oxygen, right? As the coal burns, it generates syngas and methane. This syngas and methane are actually extracted above ground, and then you can generate electricity with methane. And then with the syngas, you can generate various things, various components as for industry. So my proposal is that we can move away from current methods of coal mining using this, because when you use specifically underground coal gasification, is that you don't need to do the mining and the disturbing of the landscape. You don't need people underground. You don't need heavy equipment and all of that. All of the turning of the coal into gas can all happen underground. And then once you have that, you can purify the coal gas, right? And its products above ground. So this, I believe, would be a very amazing opportunity for South Africa, seeing that South Africa has a large coal fleet, but this coal fleet somehow, currently we have about 34 billion tons of coal that's available, right? But at around 2040, there'll be about 7 billion tons of coal. So if we can tap into underground coal seams and then tap into the, the, the transformation of coal into gas, right? Generate these things, not release the sulfides onto the atmosphere, not release the nitrates, but use them for other purposes. I believe this would be a great tool for South Africa to deal with its problems of electricity. But not only will they deal with electricity, they can also generate chemicals like jet fuel, right? Diesel, petrol, right? All the various components that can be produced as if it's produced from ordinary oil or gas wells. So gasification is one of the processes which is also can be produced in a modular fashion, basically saying that you can literally produce smaller units of the system. I've seen systems that are about 1 megawatt right up to 20 megawatts. So you can invest them as and when you can afford them as a country. So basically, coal gasification is a idea which I'm proposing to South Africa to tap into the deep coal seams which were previously considered unminable and take advantage of that technology. ESCOM knows about this technology and basically has the technology and it's using it at its power station in Majuba, right? There are other various companies which basically use the technology, right, in South Africa because it basically requires low investment. You don't need a lot of water to deal with it. It doesn't have a lot of contaminants, right? It requires low maintenance and basically low operation costs. So it's quite an ideal technology that can be used in the South African context. Thank you for this opportunity. I'll see you in the next video.